The child who stuttered so horribly that his classmates labeled him an alien became the most famous comic in the world. But Rowan Atkinson had to pay a price for his change. He found that his stammer went away totally when he performed. But only then did every episode of Mr. Bean make him feel bad. He said the part was tiring and couldn't wait for the filming to end. The man who made millions of people laugh said he felt like a phony. At 70, he's now talking about how his childhood trauma affected everything. The silent comic eventually discovered a way to communicate his narrative through song. Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born on January 6, 1955, in the little town of Consett in County Durham, England. He was the youngest of 4 sons, but something horrible happened before he could even remember it. Paul, his oldest brother, died while he was a newborn, leaving him with only 3 brothers. Rodney, one of Rowan's brothers, eventually became an economist and almost became the head of the UK Independence Party in 2000. Rowan lived a very calm and controlled life because he grew up on a farm. But the odd thing is that he would become famous for playing foolish, boisterous characters. Rowan started to stutter badly when he was about 5 years old. It was hard for him to get words out, which made school challenging. He went to Durham Chester School, where the bullying was very bad. Canon John Grove, who worked there, said that Rowan was a quiet youngster with a rubbery face and trouble speaking. Some of his music students even remarked he looked like an alien. They made fun of how he appeared and how he talked. Rowan also spent a lot of time alone himself. Tony Blair, who would eventually become Prime Minister, went to that school. Tony was 2 years younger and remembers how hard things were for Rowan. The bullying was so nasty that The Independent wrote about it in 2007. But something unusual happened when Rowan got on stage. He would stop stuttering altogether. He could do that without any problems at all. That traumatic time in his upbringing was what gave him his gift. Rowan did great in school, even though he was bullied. He received the best results in his science A-levels, music, and went into Newcastle University in 1973. He studied electrical and electronic engineering when he was only 18. Not many people imagined he would become a comic, they expected he would become a scientist or an engineer. At the age of 20, he graduated in 1975. After that, he traveled to the Queen's College, Oxford, to get a master's degree in music, much like his father had done. His MSc was about something really complicated called self-tuning control systems. He even started working on a PhD but never finished it. He felt something pushing him in a different direction. Chris Robson, Rowan's teacher, once claimed that he didn't stand out in class. But as soon as he got on stage, he changed. The true change in the music started then. Rowan joined the acting club and a review organization called the Etc. while he was studying at Oxford in 1975. During this period, he met a young writer called Richard Curtis through music. This meeting would affect their lives forever. Richard saw Rowan perform for the first time at a practice in early 1976. Later, he stated there was a quiet, strange-looking man in the corner. But Richard was blown away when Rowan finally did his act. Rowan did a sketch on driving in a part when he spoke and mimed at the same time. Richard said it was pure genius. Rowan also performed with the Oxford Review at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in August 1976, the same year. This was the first time he played music for a large national audience. The show went well, and Rowan's destiny was immediately apparent. He was no longer just an engineer. He was an actor. Rowan formally started his master's degree in electrical engineering in 1975, whilst he was still at Oxford. He did considerable investigation and published his thesis in 1978. But he kept acting more and more. It was hard to tell the difference between engineering and humor. He still had that technical background, though. Years later, he would be one of the first famous people to adopt electric cars. He acquired his first hybrid car 18 years before 2023 and his first totally electric car 9 years before that. He also utilized what he knew to make fun of promises about electric vehicles and the environment. But it was evident that comedy was his main love, even with all of this. He had made the theater his home. In 1979, he made a radio show for BBC Radio 3 called The Atkinson, Music, People. This was his first major break. He played a lot of made-up people, like Sir Corin Basin and the French philosopher Georges Dupont. Richard Curtis helped write it, and Griff Rhys-Jones made it. The show was humorous and smart, but not many people listened to it. It was on at a time when people weren't expecting to see comedy, thus not many people saw it. Critics, on the other hand, could see how good he was. Like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it was recorded in stereo sound. It didn't make him famous, but it demonstrated that Rowan was ready for something larger. Things got hard between 1978 and 1979. The BBC turned him down over and over again. They didn't get his jokes. He was sad and lost. His stutter got worse during auditions and interviews, which made things extra worse. He had considered about giving up comedy and going back to being an engineer. But something happened that made everything different. He figured out that his stammer went away when he played a character. That discovery, music, made him strong. He didn't have to talk like himself all the time. He could let the characters speak for themselves. Rowan remained working with old acquaintances from music, notably Angus Deaton, who he had met at Oxford. They worked together on the radio, and Angus generally played the serious straight man. This let Rowan's crazy characters stand out. Angus later played a role in Mr. Bean and a song in an episode of Blackadder. Rowan felt more sure of himself since they worked together, even though TV was still turning him down. It helped him grow without having to worry about being on camera all the time. Rowan went back to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 1979. He was 24 years old now. People even saw him helping to build the stage and clean up the mess at the new Wireworks Theatre. His show was primarily quiet, like an old Buster Keaton movie. Some folks didn't grasp it and laughed, but others witnessed something amazing. He exploited his face and body, music, in a way that few other comedians could. That performance helped him meet the proper people in the business. He started trying for TV again in 1980. He made a pilot called Canned Laughter that aired in 1979. He played a lot of different parts, one of which being a very early version of Mr. Bean. The show was smart, but it didn't get picked up as a series. During many of these auditions, his stutter came back, which made things even more tense. But he started to figure out how to fight it. He really got into his characters. When he was 25 and appeared on Wogan in 1980, he had learned how to mask his stammer while performing. That was the start of the end of the fight. People started to notice a peculiar, quiet youngster who had converted his pain into laughter from then on. Rowan Atkinson's life and music was never the same again. That was the year the BBC offered him a shot on a new comedy show called Not the 9 O'Clock News. It was meant to be out in April, but a general election pushed it delayed. At that time, the BBC believed the show would be too political. The first episode finally came out on October 16, 1979. But things didn't go as planned. Very few people watched it. Fewer than 1 million people watched. People who didn't like it loathed it. Some people thought it was rude, and even Music stated it should never be on TV. Mel Smith, who would eventually become a close co-star, stated it was the worst half-hour of TV he had ever seen. But the BBC controller was surprised and liked it. He right away ordered another series. That choice saved the program and made it one of the best British comedies of all time. Rowan, Music, worked with Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, and Griff Rhys-Jones, and they all became famous. Things weren't going so well behind the scenes. Chris Longam was sacked in 1980 after only one season of Music. Rowan didn't like this. He tried to persuade the producers to keep Chris, which showed how loyal he was, but they still got rid of him and replaced him with Griff Rhys-Jones. Chris didn't talk to any of them for years after the fallout because it was so bad. The BBC also began to slash the show's budget. In an episode called The Outrageously Expensive Not the 9 O'Clock News, they even made fun of how bad things had gotten. They had to quit filming in luxury places and give up smaller parts. Rowan's serious and perfectionist side started to appear around this time. the tone of the show shifted too. It stopped using shock humor and started using smart and strange humor instead. There were evident hints of creative differences behind closed doors. Then came the moment that changed Rowan's life forever. A sketch named Gerald the Gorilla aired on Music during the second series in 1980. Mel Smith played a professor who said he had taught a gorilla named Gerald. But Gerald, who was played by Rowan in a gorilla suit, was brighter and angrier than everyone thought. Gerald went crazy when the professor revealed he caught him in the wild in 1968. "Wild. I was absolutely livid," he said. That line became legendary. The sketch was so successful that real scientists started calling groupings of baboons a flange, much as in the sketch. The episode helped the show win the Montreux Festival's Silver Rose in 1982. It also won the BAFTA for Best Show for Light Entertainment. That one sketch helped Rowan become a master of bizarre and physical comedy. It also laid the stage for his future roles in Blackadder and Mr. Bean. Something much more shocking happened in 1981. The CD Hedgehog sandwich included a funny song called "I Like Trucking." The song was a smash. Rowan, who had never played music before, was part of a charting hit, something no one expected. All four actors sang it together, and Rowan really did drive the vehicle in the scene. He wasn't faking it. At that time, he had a real Class 1 lorry license. That little bit of music made the sketch even more real and amusing. The song came out as a single on BBC Records and was so popular that it was later included on BBC compilations. It showed that Rowan was more than just a comic who did sketches. He was able to do more. He could sing, act, drive, and entertain in a lot of various ways. Things started to go wrong in 1982, though. The show terminated in March of that year, but it wasn't due of low ratings. The cast, including Rowan, had reached their limit. They were very tired. The pressure, the rapid pace, the writing, the performing, and the stress. It was just too much. Rowan was having a hard time, especially. He had been dealing with anxiety for a long time, and the amount of work he had to do was too much for him. So instead of riding their success and going on for money or celebrity, they left. Pamela Stephenson moved to Hollywood. Rowan started filming Blackadder right away in 1983. Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones made their own show called Alas Smith and Jones. It was unusual for them to quit at the height of their fame. It indicated that Rowan cared more about mental health and music, artistic integrity than money. Rowan started the Blackadder on June 15, 1983. It was a crazy thought. He worked with Richard Curtis, the same person he worked with on Not the 9 O'Clock News, to make it. They thought about what it might be like if Richard III had won the Battle of Bosworth Field. Rowan played Prince Edmund, the sly and power-hungry son of King Richard IV. They shot at Elwick Castle and employed big sets and costumes. The show was a major risk. Australia's Seven network even helped pay for it. They put a joke in the credits that said additional dialogue by William Shakespeare just to make fun of it. It was a big jump in creativity, but it also cost a lot of money. The costs were so expensive that the BBC almost cancelled it after the first series. The shoots kept getting ruined by rain. The filming at the castle took a long time. The historical clothes and huge cast lists drove up the cost. The reviews weren't even that excellent. Some people said that the song wasn't as hilarious as Rowan's prior efforts. The show earned an international Emmy, which was the only thing that saved it. The BBC was sure enough to give it another shot after it won that award. But this time, they made severe alterations. No more enormous sets or castles. The next season would be shorter, cheaper, and sharper. That choice affected the destiny of the show in a big way. Blackadder 2 came out in 1986. Everything was different. Ben Elton joined as a co-writer, which made the jokes funnier and the story shorter. They got rid of the big movie scenes and focused on the characters' moments. Rowan didn't have to share the stage with bigger stars like Brian Blessed anymore. He was now in charge of the show. The cast was one of the greatest adjustments. Miranda Richardson played Queenie, a funny and squeaky queen that people adored right away. There were legendary guest stars, such Tom Baker as Redbeard Rum, who was unforgettable. Rowan's character, Edmund, became snarky and sharp, while Baldric, who used to be smart, became the adorable idiot that fans loved. Some supporters were angry at first. Music, one critic even called Rowan Wally of the Week. But over time, people's minds shifted. People saw that this version was even superior. The characters were more complex, the jokes were funnier, and the chemistry was just right. Blackadder Goes Forth, the last season, debuted in 1989 and was something no one saw coming. Rowan played Captain Blackadder in the show, which was set in the trenches of World War I. Lieutenant George was played by Hugh Laurie, and Private Baldric was played by Tony Robinson. It was both humorous and serious at the same time. It made fun of war while still making a point. Some people were worried that making jokes about World War I would be insulting, but it wasn't. It was strong. At the BAFTAs in 1990, it won for Best Comedy Series. Rowan also won for Best Performance in Light Entertainment. In 2000, the British Film Institute put the show at number 16 on their list of the finest British shows of all time. And in 2004, it got more than 282,000 votes in a BBC poll for Britain's second-best sitcom. The last sequence, in which the soldiers slowly advance into no man's land, is one of the most moving endings in TV history. The cast worked together like a family behind the scenes. Rowan, Hugh Laurie, and Stephen Fry often made things up as they went along. They had faith in each other. Rowan once remarked that this was the least stressful endeavor of his career because he didn't have to deal with all the stress by himself. Everyone worked together to carry it. Their chemistry was incredible. A lot of the ad-libbed phrases made it into the last episodes. Rowan later claimed that they could never have what they had in the 1980s again. That was a great time. Mr. Bean came next. On January 1, 1990, the first episode aired and 13.45 million people watched it. Rowan made the persona years ago while he was a student at Oxford. He didn't say much as Mr. Bean, which made it great for people all around the world. There were 245 nations where people may buy the show. 18.74 million people watched one episode, The Trouble with Mr. Bean. It quickly became one of the most popular comedies in the world. People could chuckle even if they didn't know English. The physical comedy broke down all the walls. But there was something darker underneath all that laughter. Rowan was in pain. He said he didn't like playing Mr. Bean. It was hard to handle. It took a lot out of him. He stated the weight of the obligation made him look forward to the conclusion. Rowan had to use his body and expression to say everything because the character didn't talk much. That hurt my feelings. People thought it was funny, but the man who did it was in a lot of agony when he did it. Mr. Bean hit the big screen in 1997. The movie Bean generated more than $251 million over the world. More than $25 million of that came from international markets. It launched at number 1 in Australia with $3.1 million. It made $2.5 million in the UK, breaking opening records. It made more than 12 million Deutsche Marks on its first weekend in Germany. Even before it came out in the US, it became the fastest UK movie to make $100 million. Rowan was even more fatigued after all that achievement. He was already having a hard time with the character, and now the world demanded more of it. He found a way out in 2002. He created the animated show Mr. Bean. It started on March 2nd and ended on November 1, 2004. There were 52 episodes of the show. This style was a relief. Rowan simply had to do the voice. No more hard effort that makes you tired. Kids liked the show, so it went to CITV. It maintained close to the original while adding new characters. The animated version kept Mr. Bean alive and didn't affect Rowan's health. The show kept going, and by 2024, it was still being made. Rowan brought Mr. Bean back for one last live show at the London Olympics in 2012. He did a funny skit during Chariots of Fire, which 26.9 million people in the UK saw. Around the world, 900 million people viewed it. It was one of the most tweeted moments of the night, but it was hard on Rowan. It left him tired for weeks. A lot of people now think that was his last big appearance as Mr. Bean in person. Rowan kept shocking people even when he wasn't in Mr. Bean or Blackadder. He played an anxious priest in 4 Weddings and a Funeral in 1994. It took only 6 weeks and $3 million to make the movie. It brought in $245.7 million. His wedding scene, in which he messes up the vows, became famous. That little part helped him develop his next great persona. He was in the spy satire Johnny English in 2003. It cost $40 million to make and made $160 million over the world. It all began with his old Barclay card advertisements. He did stunts, dancing routines, and physical humor. Because it did so well, there was a sequel called Johnny English Reborn in 2011. It cost $45 million to make, yet it only made $8.3 million in the US. People from all over the world adored it. Johnny English Strikes Again came out in theaters in 2018. There was a cyber attack and digital spying in the story. Rowan leveraged his true technical experience from Oxford to make the role more interesting. The movie mixed old-school espionage fun with anxieties about new technology, which made it relatable to people who are frightened about their safety online. Rowan did something unusual with Keeping Mom in 2005. He played a pastor who was having trouble with his family. The movie didn't fare well with music. People who saw it and critics didn't say anything. Some people thought it was too gloomy, while others thought it was too strange. Rowan stepped aside from film because of the failure. He spent 2 years off to work on live shows and TV before coming back strong with Johnny English Reborn. In the late 1980s, Rowan Atkinson met Sunetra Sastry for the first time. She did makeup for the BBC show Blackadder. Rowan really did change makeup artists just so he could chat to her. Stephen Fry, his co-star, was quietly upset because he too wanted to ask her out. Rowan, on the other hand, got there first. They fell in love and got married at the Russian Tea Room in New York on February 5, 1990. Stephen Fry was his best man. They had 2 kids together. Their daughter, Lily, was born in 1993, and their son, Benjamin, was born in 1995. They were together for 24 years. But things changed in 2014. Rowan and Sunetra broke up that year. The divorce was final in November 2015. Sunetra told the court that Rowan was acting unreasonably. Rowan had also secretly started dating another woman, Louise Music Ford, who was a lot younger. There were a lot of articles in the news, and Sunetra Music was heartbroken to be replaced by someone so young. In March 2001, something very scary happened to Rowan. While he was flying with his family in Kenya, their private pilot suddenly passed out in the air. Rowan had never flown a plane before, but he took the controls and was able to keep the plane steady. He kept holding on until the captain woke up and safely landed the jet in Nairobi. At the time, Rowan was 46. People never thought the man who portrayed Mr. Bean would do it. In actual life, he maintained cool and saved everyone. He doesn't say much about the emotional wounds it left, but the flight could have ended badly if he hadn't responded quickly. In October 2012, Rowan gave a speech in Parliament that startled a number of people. It was about freedom of speech. He spoke for 9 minutes defending the freedom to say things even if others find them disrespectful. He claimed too many things are deemed objectionable, music, and that people should be allowed to talk freely. That speech went viral, gaining over 140,000 views in only a few days. But not everyone agreed with him. Some LGBTQ+ groups and progressive music campaigners accused him of supporting hate speech. The legislation did change, though. The provision of the Public Order Act that made it illegal to use rude language was taken out. People figured out that Rowan wasn't only a hilarious guy. He wasn't frightened to say what he thought. Rowan started a new relationship in 2013 while acting in a play called Quartermain's Terms. He was 58 years old. Louise Ford, who played his co-star, was 31. She broke up with her boyfriend, comedian James Acaster, to be with Rowan. People labeled it a scandal because there was a 27-year age gap between them. The news came out in 2014, about the same time that Rowan and Sinatra broke up. Fans and reporters were quite hard on them. But Rowan didn't say anything about it. He famously observed, "The only thing more important than not talking about your personal life is not talking about why you're not talking about it." In December 2017, Louise gave birth to their daughter Isella. At 62, Rowan became a parent for the second time. People have always thought of Rowan as someone who cares about the environment. He drove electric and hybrid cars and talked about climate change since the 1980s. But in June 2023, he penned an essay for The Guardian that astonished everyone. The title was "I love electric vehicles, and I was one of the first to buy one, but I'm starting to feel like I've been tricked." He noted in the paper that making electric automobiles releases 70% more greenhouse gases than making regular cars. He didn't like the batteries that EVs require. Conservative news outlets like Fox Business picked up on the article. Environmental scientists were upset and argued his allegations were not true. Then it became out that Rowan had a big collection of supercars, like rare McLarens and Aston Martins. The UK Parliament even said that his article was to blame for the poor sales of electric vehicles. His critics stated that even if he lived a very high carbon life, he nevertheless aided fossil fuel firms. Rowan didn't want to play Zazu in The Lion King when Disney offered him the part in 1994. He indicated he didn't like voice work, but he consented nonetheless, and his voice became one of the most memorable portions of the movie. The Lion King made $968.5 million around the world. It made more money than any other hand-drawn Disney movie. His Zazu performance was a tremendous hit, even if he didn't do the singing voice. He didn't come back for the 2019 remake, which nevertheless made $1.6 billion. Fans of his music missed him. It was one of those weird times when he got a significant triumph in his career by doing something he didn't want to do. Rowan shocked everyone on the Graham Norton show in 2018 when he, music, made a surprising confession. He mentioned that filming was incredibly hard and tiring. He thought that nothing he did was ever good enough. He informed The Telegraph in 2012 that he wished to retire Mr. Bean. He remarked it could be difficult to see someone in their 50s act like a youngster. But in 2016, he changed his mind and claimed, music, he would never stop playing the character. Then, in 2018, he changed his mind again and indicated that Mr. Bean was unlikely to come back. He also remarked, "You must, music, never say never." Fans were perplexed, but it demonstrated how hard it was for him to let go of the character that made him famous. Mr. Bean made millions of people happy, but for Rowan, it also meant stress and exhaustion. Rowan did physical comedy again in 2022 with a Netflix show called Man vs. Bee. He played Trevor, a house sitter who was trying to get rid of a bee. The 9 episodes were all between 10 and 20 minutes long. It seemed like fun, but it was hard for him to film. Rowan was 67 years old and doing stunts like he used to do on Mr. Bean. He remarked that even a bike sequence in Mr. Bean's Holiday, which was a movie he made before, left him absolutely, music, tired. He said he wasn't athletic and never had been. Man vs. Bee was a return to the old style, but it also showed that his body couldn't handle the same level of physical comedy anymore. Rowan turned 70 on January 6, 2025. He was born in Newcastle upon Tyne and had been making people laugh with his music for more than 45 years. There was a lot of buzz online about his birthday. Fans shared their favorite music videos and wished him luck, but a lot of them also questioned if he would quit soon. Rowan has already mentioned that as you get older, it gets tougher to do physical comedy. He seemed more willing to take things slowly. Some people thought it was time to say goodbye to Mr. Bean for good. The official Mr. Bean YouTube channel had more than 12.01 billion views and 35.1 million followers by September 2025. It made between $77,000 and $232,000 each month. It got between 1.5 and 2.3 million views every day. Fans of the persona were everywhere, from Tokyo to Mumbai to S. Paul. Even comedians like Sacha Baron Cohen acknowledged that Mr. Bean's manner had an effect on them. The Atkinson approach is what comedy colleges teach nowadays. It was a basic, silent comedy that everyone could understand. People started to label Rowan the Charlie Chaplin of the 21st century. He was more than just a British actor. He became famous all around the world. In September 2024, a fan idea concerning Mr. Bean finally came true. People thought he was an alien for a long time. In the cartoon episode Double Trouble, that theory proved out to be correct. Mr. Bean meets copies of himself in his spaceship. Screen Rant said the show made it clear that he was not from Earth. It was hinted at in the opening of the first performance. A Latin chant plays as a bean falls from the sky. The chant says, "Behold the man who was a bean." His name was merely Mr. Aliens didn't know how to name people, so they didn't give them a first name. Rowan had hinted at it once in 1993, but now it was a part of the plot. Fans were stunned but happy to learn the truth. Rowan's award record is amazing, even though he doubts himself a lot. He has won 12 big prizes and been nominated 18 times. He won a BAFTA for Not the 9 O'Clock News and a Laurence Olivier Award for Rowan Atkinson in Review in 1981. He got the award for Best Light Entertainment Act in 1990 for Blackadder Goes Forth. Mr. Bean alone won him 4 BAFTA nods from 1991 to 1994. He also received an International Emmy for music. Rowan keeps insisting he doesn't feel successful, though. He always asks himself questions. But fans all over the world agree that he is one of the best of all time.